Here we go.
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, August 9th. This is the Board of Directors meeting. I'd like to start off with the pledge to the flag. Director Wood, will you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Sunday, August 12th at noon, and Monday, August 13th at 6 p.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session and meetings are also available for viewing on the district's website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. Moving on, the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district's jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any speakers?
There are no speakers this evening.
All right, moving on to the consent items.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I second it.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Director Gale, I know you're getting settled.
No problem. It's a yes.
Yes on consent, great, thank you. And Director Gould.
Aye.
Orzali.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
And Sheets.
Aye.
Motion passes.
We have one action item, Enterprise Resource Planning System and Implementation Services. CFO Amanda Thomas, go ahead.
Good evening, directors, Chief Shannon. It's my pleasure to be here this evening to present a recommendation regarding an enterprise resource planning or ERP system and related implementation services. And before I jump into the presentation, I want to do what I will forget to do if I wait until the end, which is to say that, like a lot of things, I'm up here talking to you about something that's really representing the work that a whole lot of other people have done, and I want to thank and acknowledge those people. So this process has involved a lot of input from staff in the IT, human resources, purchasing, and finance divisions. Really a lot of work as we've gone through the selection process. And in particular, I want to acknowledge Sherry Martucci, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, but has really been the project manager for this effort and deserves a lot of the credit for getting us to this point. So with that, I will jump into the presentation. Starting off with, first of all, what is ERP? So we say Enterprise Resource Planning. What does that mean, or at least what does it mean for us here at the district? And really what it is it's a single software system for all data, transactions, processes, and reporting across the district's human resources, purchasing, and finance functions. Or to put it a little bit more simply, it's our people, the stuff we buy, both of which involve money. And I think if you look at this, you can look at this and say, well, pretty much everything we do involves at least two of those things. So it's really covering all of the business processes of the district. A little bit of background. So we do have a system today. Our current ERP system is Tyler Encode, and it was implemented by the district in 2013. And I think that the reality is that the system has never quite met the business requirements of the district. So we're in a situation today where a lot of processes are happening outside of the system. So a lot of our payroll calculations are done manually in spreadsheets because they can't be accommodated in the system. A lot of our HR processes are paper-based, not really happening in a system at all. And even our budgeting, we do a lot of that through external spreadsheets and not incorporated within the system. Those are a few examples of, really the limitations of our current system and not truly accommodating the requirements of the district. So because we were in that situation, sort of recognized those things, we engaged a consultant, SDI Presence, to conduct an ERP needs assessment for us. So they conducted that assessment and analysis, which really involved getting input from every functional area in the district. And the result of that assessment confirmed that, in fact, our current system in code really wasn't capable of meeting our requirements. And then the other part of that was that that assessment identified what those specific requirements are in detail in a form that could be used for us in the RFP process to select a replacement system. So that is, in fact, what we embarked on in September of 2017, so really almost a year ago. We issued a request for proposals for an ERP system. We received 7 proposals in response to that RFP. And then the evaluation committee narrowed that down to the top 3 proposals. And for those top 3 solutions, we had what were called proof of capabilities demonstrations, where for each of the proposals, we spent 2 days actually seeing the system demonstrate all of the specific business process requirements that we had identified for the district. So after that process, that was in January, after that process, we identified the recommended proposer, and since that time have been working on refining the scope of what would actually be implemented and negotiating the contracts that are before you this evening. So the recommended solution. So as a result of the process that I just described, we identified that the solution that best meets the needs of the district is an Oracle ERP cloud applications. So that would be the financials, planning and budgeting, project financial management, procurement, human resources administration, payroll, and talent management. All of those modules will be implemented. And the selected proposer to implement that software would be Application Software Technology, or AST. A little bit about AST. They've been in business for more than 20 years. They have more public sector implementations than any other implementer, including several California agencies. And they have more than 30 successfully completed Oracle Cloud projects and have won Oracle Excellence Awards 5 times. And I don't want to make this a sales pitch for them, but it's important because I think a real consideration for us in this process was identifying that there is a lot of risk associated with this type of project, and obviously a lot of investment of time and resources, and we wanted to make sure that we had a very experienced partner going forward in doing it.
It was 300, right?
Yes.
Not 30?
300.
300.
Okay, so benefits of the proposed solution. Why are we doing this? So the first that I like to talk about is integration between modules for streamlined business processes. So you heard me talk about how that sort of isn't currently the case with our current system, but this would be single data entry and elimination of shadow systems and spreadsheets that are happening outside of the system. And I think a good example of the sort of the single data entry idea is that after the system is implemented, if we're recruiting for a position and somebody's applying and they enter their information, name, other information, when that person is hired, that information is automatically streamlined into our HR module, which feeds into the payroll module. So which is going to feed into an integration with, Active Directory for IT that's going to populate, network access and those kinds of things. So it's not being entered multiple times by multiple people. It really is sort of streamlined throughout the business processes of the district. User-friendly features and self-service capabilities. So this is a system that will be used by every employee of the district to access and provide information about pay and time and benefits. And the easier it is to use, the more likely it is it will be used. And I think we really want to promote use and make sure that we're getting the most benefit out of having the capabilities of this system. automated workflows and elimination of paper-based processes. So manual processes will be automated with electronic approvals and documentation, electronic documentation. It's a system that's highly configurable with flexible reporting tools. So it will be configured to meet the district's specific business needs and have dashboards and reporting that will result in better decision-making. And then finally, the software subscription is modular. So there's the ability to add applications and users as the need arises. It's really something that would grow with the district and used, and because of that, used for decades to come, not something that we're going to grow out of. So the approach to the implementation of the software is that it really is a joint AST Metro Fire project team. There will be on-site AST resources here, and over the year-long implementation, it will be a substantial investment in time and resources. So the project budget anticipates that there will be about 16,000 hours of AST resource time spent on this implementation. It is a three-phase approach to the implementation. So we would start off with a phase one that's financials, procurement and projects, followed shortly by budgeting. Both of those would go live March of 2019. And then the phase three, which is HR, benefits, payroll, and time entry, would start in December with a go live of July 1 of 2019. So implementation and software costs. And there are basically two components to the cost of this. The first is really an upfront investment in something that's going to be of long-term benefit to the district. So it's approximately $2.2 million, not to exceed budget for the implementation services. I think there's two things to note here. One is that we will only actually pay for the hours that are used, so that's a not to exceed amount. And if it takes less time to get the work done, then the cost will be less than that. And then secondly, recognizing that this really is an investment in a long-term benefit, we're recommending that we finance the capital costs of the implementation over a 5-year term. So that would result in annual payments of about $425,000. The second component of the costs are the annual software subscription fees, and those are approximately $177,000. That compares to the cost of current systems of about $100,000, so it's a net increase of $77,000 there. That software subscription order is a 5-year commitment, so we're committing to pay that amount for each of the next 5 years, and then we have option to extend with the same pricing for 4 additional years beyond that term. So when you look at these things together, we're really looking at an average annual cost over the first 5 years of about $500,000, and then after that, sort of the net increase in cost of about $77,000 a year would be the annual impact. So with that, our recommendation is to approve the resolutions that were attached to the staff report, which will authorize the fire chief to enter into the necessary agreements with AST, and then also would declare the intent of the district to reimburse itself from the proceeds of future financing to finance these costs. That concludes my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions.
Are there any
I
questions?
have a question.
Director Gale.
Item 2. Could you kind of explain that?
I can explain
That
that.
one kind of threw me.
Sure, and really what that is it's actually a requirement that if we are to issue tax-exempt financing, the only way that we can issue tax-exempt financing and use those proceeds to pay for expenditures that we've already incurred is if we first declare the intent of the district that we're going to do that. So it doesn't obligate us to issue the financing, but it protects us in the event that we spend money and we later want to reimburse ourselves from financing proceeds.
Very well.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Director Gould, go ahead.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Recently we've read in the local news about government agencies that have had some troubles with software developers. And just recently, I think today in the news, we read about school system that's having some real challenges. And we've also got a history of having some challenges in this area with this kind of stuff. And so I'm a little bit concerned that we front load a lot of this stuff without any opportunity to have it implemented in significant amounts to make sure that it meets the needs of our organization, and then have a significant payment once there's, I know you had a proof of 2 days, but this is a big organization that's constantly changing. And so I'm just wondering if in the contract language, we have some language there, which I didn't see, but that offers us an opportunity to start paying into this process once we have some proof of concept in the system longer than 2 days, where we can make sure that this pretty sizable investment over the next 5 years is actually working for Metro Fire, so we don't end up in a situation like the City of Sacramento's Unified School District or another agency that shan't be named. Because I think we're doing something, even though there's, I think the number was 300 experiences of implementation. So did some of our other folks that have come to us with these unique software programs and so on and so forth. And then the second part of this that concerned me a little bit is there a limitation to the escalators that typically happen when you buy subscription services for software? Then you become hooked, everybody's using it, and then all of a sudden the next evolution of that software increases in cost by 200%. Well, now they got you because you're dependent on that tool, and you really kind of get forced into it, versus in the language, it says that there's a certain amount that can be escalated, but it caps, so that if this Oracle software jumps at a certain point that's beyond our capabilities, we're protecting that. Because I'm a little nervous about, buying into software subscription without there being that cap involved. So those are the two concerns that I had as I read the proposal when it came to us.
Sure. So let me start with the first, which I think relates more to the implementation services, and then the second is relating more to the software subscription fees. So I think you're absolutely right to be concerned about the risk of implementation. I think it's a concern that was sort of foremost in the minds of everybody as we went through this process, which really informed kind of the process from day one, which was we want to make sure we get the requirements right? So we're getting proposals in from systems that can actually meet the requirements of the district at the end of the day. We want to actually see it happen. You're right. It's only 2 days, but we want to see it and make sure that is actually true. And then we want to understand the process by which the implementation will occur, and what sort of validation we're seeing during that process, that we're actually getting ourselves to a position at the end where we want to be. So I didn't talk a lot about the implementation process, but the approach that the AST takes is one where they call, it's define, model, verify, deploy. So we spend time at the very beginning of the project really validating those requirements so that both sides understand what they are. The model is actually configuring the system to achieve those requirements, and during that phase, they run what they call sprints, where you are kind of going through and seeing the software in action and saying, yes, that works, no, that doesn't work. And then the verify is your testing, right? So like a good example is payroll. We'll run a payroll test and confirm and compare that to the old system and see that we get the same results. And then we're deploying, we're actually going live, right? So I think by working that process hand in hand, I think that there are a lot of sort of checks and balances that we're seeing. Things are working the way that they're supposed to. So that's all goes according to plan. And then once the system is go live, there's actually a 60-day period before we've accepted that the phase is completed. So everything has to work the way that it's supposed to for 60 days with no tier 1 or tier 2 issues, what they're called, before it's accepted. So I think all of that, everything works the way that it's supposed to. Okay, well, what if things don't work the way that they're supposed to? What assurances have we built in that we have some leverage there? So one of the things that we also wanted to make sure we were reflecting in the contract was some incentive on performance. So there's an 8% retention that's in there that is not payable until the 60-day is completed. So that's held back from all of the invoices. Finally, if we get through the process and things really are not going the way that the district intends, there's a 30-day termination, without cause. So I think there are protections that we've built in there, and there are, and I understand those concerns and I share them. Your second question on the software subscription fees. That $177,000 is the price for each of the next 5 years. That won't change. That's locked in. And then we also have the ability beyond that for the 4 years after that to continue to get that software for the same price. But that's our option. I don't think we will. This is certainly not the intent, but we could say in 5 years, we're done with Oracle. We don't want to pay it anymore. But if we are not done and we want to continue to pay, it is that same price with no escalation for the following 4 years. Beyond that 9-year term, we don't have any assurance in writing, but we also don't have that commitment to pay.
Okay. Thank you very much for explaining that.
Sure.
Director Orzali.
One other question. In doing your due diligence, are there other agencies that are using a similar project or a similar product from this company?
Yes.
That you talk to?
Yes, so there are other agencies, well, there are obviously multiple public agencies that are using Oracle. The Oracle Cloud offering, which is a complete software as a service, there are other agencies that are using it, not as many. There is a water district that we have talked to. It is currently being implemented by the city of Roseville, so we also talked to them as well. And then those are the California agencies. It's been implemented by the city of Detroit recently, other agencies as well.
Okay, thank you. One other point. I'm always very impressed by the presentations that you make and the work that your staff does. I wanted to congratulate you on the slide that showed the people, the equipment, and the money. You finally got one simple enough for me to understand. Nice work.
That is the extent of my graphical capabilities.
Director Gale.
I think that from a Stanford person, this is a great proposal. And I think that Cap Weinberger and George Schultz would approve of it. I think it's something that's worth it, well done. There are protections on it if the performance is not there. So I'm happy with the proposal, extremely so.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I'll move that we adopt staff's recommendations.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Dr. Gale,
Yes.
Gould,
Aye.
Orzali,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
and Sheets.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to reports. President's reports. Director Barnes did not make anything, and I don't have anything. So, Fire Chief report, Chief Shannon.
Well, I wasn't so lucky. Chief Harms left me something. So, good evening, Director Sheets and Board. Just a few items tonight. And we'll start off with some congratulations. Talking about retirements effective July 27th, Captain Tom Hansen with 34 years retired, and effective August 5th, Captain Scott Richardson, 27 years retired. We've also had some promotions effective August 3rd. Joshua Shelton, SRP EMT, promoted to paramedic, and effective August 6th, Battalion Chief Dave Durham was promoted. And also last week on the 2nd, we had a promotional ceremony where Chief Bridge was the Master MC, and we promoted 33 members in the organization, anywhere from engineer up to assistant chief, which the chief law is sitting in the audience. We had a reassignment sitting next over there to chief law is Battalion Chief Rick Driggs. Took the Battalion Chief EMS Day assignment, and those were all the congratulations. I think we'll talk to Rick here in a little while if that's a congratulations for him. But moving on, the other item that we had was, and you heard Amanda Thomas speaking tonight. She ran our final budget meeting on the 2nd, where we had all the budget officers and 522 in this room for most of the morning, and went over the final budget. And that's the end of the report, unless you guys have any questions.
Any questions? All right. Operations report, Chief Bridge.
Good evening, directors. Eric Bridge, Deputy Chief Operations. I'm sure, as you're all aware by the the outdoor air quality. We've been busy with fires. Many of our members are out there. We have about 31 members out right now. Actually, we had about 8 of them return today from our OES strike team. Most of them are at the Mendocino Complex, as you're probably well aware. That's probably the largest. It is the largest fire in state history. They are making ground on that. However, there's still a tremendous amount of work to be done, as I was informed by one of our field observers today on the phone, that there's still about 30 miles of open fire line on that fire. And 30 miles is, to put dozers tracking 30 miles is a lot of work and a lot of bulldozers. So plenty of work to be done, and some new fires are still breaking out. So we continue to support the mission for the mutual aid system in California. As we know, in our area, that need could come someday, and we're going to be asking for that help from the rest of the state as well. So we do our part to help. Our members are doing a tremendous job out there. You think the smoke and the air quality is bad here. You go there for 16 days in a base camp where it's about 4 or 5 times as thick as what we're experiencing in this area. So my hat's off to them. They're doing a great work. In addition to all that, we've recently deployed Copter 1 out to the Mendocino Complex because Copter 2 is here and in service and doing good work for us as well. But I just want to take the moment to note that Copter 1 had 2 rescues on that over the last 10 days they've been there. One of them was a night mission, so the night vision goggles that we received through a grant have been put into use and have been effective in affecting a rescue. It was 2 nights ago, I believe it was. So it was a tricky and technical rescue, but the guys did a great job. So very, very proud of them. Like I said, we got about 8 back. So we got about 25 of our members still out. So 8 of them came back. My guess is they will end up going back out again because, again, it's extremely busy and there's a lot of work left to do. In addition to that, we stay busy. We're trending upwards in our numbers. Since our last report out, we're close to 4,000 calls. It's kind of the standard, but we're a little bit busier than what we have been in the past. 18 structure fires, and we're still holding steady with about 2,700 medical dispatches and transportation rates still maintaining that right around just above 70% percentile. So that's all I have for you this evening. If you have any questions, happy to answer. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Director Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, are you aware of any other public agency besides CAL FIRE that has air apparatus that's up there?
So the Forest Service does a lot of contract work with...
Right, besides those contracts and the CAL FIRE, are we the only public agency that has a helicopter fighting fire up there?
At the Mendocino we are.
Okay.
I believe so. I could be wrong. Kern County, I know, is very active.
But in Northern California,
California, we're at.
So that just needs to ring in some legislators' ears when it comes time for some grants that should be flowing through the state.
Absolutely.
If our agency is the single agency that's backing up in air operations, that is an expensive piece of equipment.
Yeah.
That if we want to maintain it, that's going to need to have some grants flowing our way if we're going to start using that as a statewide or at least a Northern California asset.
And it does. The visibility of which we're receiving now, it does provide a lot more opportunities, and we will absolutely have our eyes on those, and we'll capitalize on them.
Can we increase the size of the Metro Fire stickers?
Yeah, we'll get a little bit bigger.
We need to get them bigger.
We got to get the big sign. And
A
I would take a
banner.
moment to also mention that during the day, our Copter 1 has been requested to do lots of water drops. So traditionally, it goes out on these missions to be there as a hoist rescue type of helicopter.
Sure.
For those steep canyons where some of the firefighters end up getting injured or whatever it may be. But also during the daytime, they've been requested to do water drops because there's just so much fire. So they've been very busy. So it's been good. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Moving on to firefighters local 522, Sean Schollard, firefighter paramedic.
Good evening, directors, Chief Shannon, senior staff. Sean Schollard, shift representative for 522, here to speak on behalf of the union, just to give you a quick update. Our executive board is in Seattle celebrating the 54th convention and 100-year anniversary of the IAFF. So I think it's important to just look at the accomplishments the IF has done over the last 100 years in regards to service delivery with fire and EMS and working conditions for us as firefighters. We'd like to just reiterate the relationship that we have with the board. It seems like it gets brought up every single time, and we're very happy with that, and we look forward to collaborative efforts moving forward. Fire season is extremely busy, and morale's still up, though. So mandatories are coming, and people know that that's just part of the game in the summertime in California. So I think all divisions are stepping up, and like Chief Bridge mentioned, hats go off to everybody who's trying to make this as less of an impact as it can be in times like this. So additionally, I think some recognition needs to be thrown out to the families of our members and even all divisions. Without the support of our families, it's going to make this fire season even harder. So it's a huge impact on them, and I think our Metro Fire family is very, very strong, and it shows in times like this, and there's a lot of support at home, and so we're appreciative of that as well. That pretty much concludes the report for 5 to 2, unless there's any questions.
Speaking of families, isn't there something you're forgetting to tell us about your family?
Oh, we had a new addition to my family. I have a newborn at home, so he's just over 2 weeks old, and so so I've had some time off, and so
Congratulations to your wife.
Thank you. Haven't had the impact of the fire, but definitely some sleepless nights. So it definitely feels like I'm back on the ambulance. So it's a trip down memory lane. So the times on Medic 41.
All right. And any other questions or comments? No. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. All right, moving on to committee and delegate reports. The executive committee, we do not have a meeting scheduled. Moving on to Communication Center JPA. Chief Johnson?
Good evening, directors. Chief Shannon, Mo Johnson, Assistant Chief, Special Operations. The Comm Center JPA has not met since your last meeting. However, just a quick update on our process for selecting a new executive director. The final filing date has closed. We received 11 applications, so we'll be looking through those candidates. And hopefully in the next month or so, we will have a permanent CED or executive director. Our next meeting is August 24th at 9 a.m. here in this quarters. End report.
24th or 28th?
24th.
Moving on to California Fire Rescue Training JPA. Chief Shannon.
We have not met for some times. We will be meeting September 20th at 4 o'clock across the hall in CESC.
Finance and Audit Committee, Director Kelly.
The Finance and Audit Committee is scheduled to meet 2 weeks from now on the 23rd. I must inform my alternate that I will most likely miss that meeting, and so consequently there will be only 2 directors present, and if we need a third, they should show up.
Copy. Policy Committee, Director Gold.
We wait with bated breath.
All right. We will end with board members' questions and comments. Director Gale.
Well, I'd like to compliment the staff for the great work they're doing. It's real dramatic firefighting. It's a hazardous, extremely hazardous job and very testing. And best of luck, best of training, and the best of their family. Thank you.
Director Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to congratulate those individuals that retired and took their decades and tens of thousands of services that they've done to our community, and congratulate them and wish them well in their retirement. Also want to congratulate everyone who advanced in our agency. What a great thing that we're of such size where that can happen. Frequently, in fact. I think that's really one of the real tangible benefits of consolidation that took place 18 years ago, if you can imagine that. I think that's really one of the major benefits. So congratulations to all of those. And then it was said by our 5-2 rep that this really is a fire season that's probably unmatched. And it is important that not only we think about the men and women that are out there supporting that, from the mechanic who lost his life today or yesterday, relative to supporting that, to the families that get those mandatories, so that the citizens can frankly be safe. Because without those, we would have a dearth of service. And so thank you from the bottom of my heart. And as I speak as a director, it's awesome to be a director and be able to go around in the community and represent all of you in some small way, because it is as my colleagues like to say, it is a premier fire agency that's unmatched. And I'm not bashful to challenge any other agency in the country to match our expertise in what we do and our forward-thinking staff and the men and women that work every day. So it's awesome to be here, and please be safe. That is the phone call we all dread to get. But thank you very much, Madam Chair. You're doing a wonderful job, by the way.
Director Rosali.
I simply wanted to congratulate everyone on their promotion. It was a great ceremony. I was honored to be there. So thank you very much.
Director Wood.
Can't be said enough. Just everyone out there, be safe. Thank you.
Director Clark.
Yes, I echo the sentiments of my other board members, and I would like to have a moment of silence for the people that have died, our firefighters that have died, and mechanics and everybody, and that have died in this series of fires.
Director Kelly.
I would like to congratulate the people that were retired and those individuals that were promoted. On social media, I constantly refer to this organization as the high-performing team, otherwise known as Metro Fire. And how could we be a high-performing team if we didn't have an enterprise resource planning system that was top-notch, right? So I appreciate the report, and I look forward to seeing it implemented smoothly and working flawlessly over the next year or so. Heavy lift, and it's not going to be easy.
Thank you. I'd also like to congratulate the retirees and the promotions. I also want to echo the comments of all the other directors. Prayers to the crews who are battling these devastating fires and wish for their safe return. Send the condolences to the families of the victims who have died, and received the update this morning about the CAL FIRE heavy equipment operator, Andrew Brake, who was killed on his way to help with the car fire. He had 6 years of service with them. So I appreciate we will close with a moment of silence. The next board meeting will be on August 23rd in these chambers at 6 p.m. So we can all stand.
Amen.